How viable are these things? Because what I have a problem with, I'm getting to the point where these black people who speak to me on TV, I don't know any of them. So some of them, and I got to admit, I got to put Don Lemon on this list before I click play. I don't know about him. Like, I don't know where he stands. You know, he hasn't been clearly standing on our side. So when I hear him talk, I don't know if it's a love conversation or a hate conversation. I always say that.
Right.
If you condemn us with love and you black, let's have that convo. But if it's for political reasons, political gain, or to benefit you personally, or just to get views, I'm not rocking with that. So let's take a moment and listen to what Don Lemon thinks. Okay. Here we go, y'all. Hold on.
Because black people, if you really want to fix the problem, here's just 5 things that you should think about doing. Here's number 5. And if this doesn't apply to you, if you're not doing this, then it doesn't apply to you. I'm not talking about you. Here's number 5. Pull up your pants. Walking around with your ass and your underwear showing is not okay. In fact, it comes from prison when they take away belts from the prisoner so that they can't make a weapon. And then it evolved into which role a prisoner would have during male-on-male prison sex. The one with the really low pants is a submissive one. You get my point? Number 4 now is the N-word. By promoting the use of that word when it's not germane to the conversation, have you ever considered that you may just be perpetuating the stereotype the master intended, acting like a nigger? Now, number 3, respect where you live. Start small by not dropping trash, littering in your own communities. I've lived in several predominantly white neighborhoods in my life. I rarely, if ever, witness people littering. I live in Harlem now. It's an historically black neighborhood. Every single day, I see adults and children dropping their trash on the ground when a garbage can is just feet away. Just being honest here. Number 2, finish school. You want to break the cycle of poverty? Stop telling kids they're acting white because they go to school or they speak proper English. A high school dropout makes on average $19,000 a year. A high school graduate makes $28,000 a year. A college graduate makes $51,000 a year. Over the course of a career, a college grad will make nearly $1 million more than a high school graduate. That's a lot of money. And number 1, and probably the most important, just because you can have a baby, it doesn't mean you should, especially without planning for one or getting married first. More than 72% of children in the African American community are born out of wedlock. That means absent fathers. And the studies show that lack of a male role model is an express train right to prison. And the cycle continues.
Hold on. Sorry, everybody. My computer. Hold on. Wait. God damn it, Harrison. All right, there we go. So, Sonia, that's a lot to unpack right there. So we see the brother Don Lemon. We see the brother Don Lemon and expressing those facts. So, for one, when we look at like because okay, some of those anecdotes, you know, pulling your pants. Well, let's go one by one. Shit, let's just break it down real quick. So let's like a 10-minute segment and break this shit down. Pulling your pants up, Sonia. How effective is this in fighting white supremacy? If I have on a suit, but my skin is black, does that mean I won't get pulled over? Does that mean I'll get that loan?
Nope.
Okay, so because slaves, we're going to break down each point just to give you guys some context. Slaves were hung in suits, right? So how you dress, how you speak, to me, if a person is racist, if they have a particular feeling about people that look like me, they're just waiting for an excuse. How I dress won't really have anything to do with that. So that's one. Another one, if he just mentioned saying the N-word. I personally say the word nigga. I know a lot of black people who don't. I don't have a problem with you if you don't. I think context is everything. My children, young people, if you're around adults, you're going to speak a particular way. I do business 7 days a week. My own businesses. I'm not walking in the room. I'm not going to do a notary with a customer in a white household, a Mexican household, a black household. I'm not going in there and say, what's up, my nigga?
Right.
It's inappropriate for the moment. People can have their opinions on how that word influences us. I think personally, if I spoke perfect English, there's going to be black people or people in general that don't feel a way about me. If you don't use the N-word and use clean English, I don't have a problem with it. Like, I don't hang my hat on that as being one of our antidotes. How do you feel about that, Sonia?
Oh. Don Lemon is one of those people who, in my opinion, is extremely anti-black. And we as black folks can perpetuate the norms of whiteness because we've been conditioned to identify what success looks like. And when I think about pulling up one's pants, I'm always going to ask the question, is that going to prevent me from dying today? Is that going to stop my kids from being pulled over and I'm being harassed by the cops? Is that going to stop a person in a position of power at their schools from harassing them or punishing them in a different way than their white peers or their Asian peers or their Latinx peers, right? So I'm asking those kind of questions. And if it is a matter of respecting oneself, let's have that conversation. Let's have the conversation about resources. Because if a child is coming, for example, from a household that is experiencing poverty, you better be lucky they got pants on. And if I can only afford to make sure that the pants, the shoes, the shirt is on their back, and I might not have an extra $10 for a belt, right? And I'm just being general in my quantification of what the cost might be, right? I'm making sure that they got pants, a shirt, and some shoes on. They might not have socks on either, right?
Yep.
They might have a limited amount of underwear to wear underneath. The extra things might not be a priority. So we need to have that conversation. I am one of those people in the Black community who I didn't grow up in a household where the N-word was heavily used. So I defaulted to modeling what my parents did. And I don't use it on a regular basis. But I will tell you, my best friend, who we are both very highly college educated, uses the N-word a lot. I just had a conversation with her today. She's in New York. And I think it's a matter of culture. I think it's a matter of what hood you grew up in.
Come on now.
Even though I grew up in Oakland and in Meadowview and in Compton, I still, because it wasn't something that was used highly in my home, I default to not making it a habit. When I am with my girlfriends who do, or with family members who do, yeah, it might be a word that slips out here and there. I probably can count on two hands how many times a year it comes across my lips. However, I'm not going to condemn my brothers and sisters for using a word that, in my opinion, has now become cultural colloquialism. We have to be very, sure about what we're saying and how we're saying. Like you said, it's the context of.
Yes.
I don't personally, and these same individuals that use the N-word in my community, in my family, like you, don't go into business meetings. We know how to code switch. We are masters of that.
Yeah.
Our slave ancestors knew how to bow their head in front of master. And when they got back to the slave quarters, they knew how to be like, I want to fuck master up because he did X, Y, and Z today. You believe the master's son, who's only 6 years old, said that I deserve a whooping. And, that kind of thing. So we've mastered how to code switch.
Yeah.
I stand very firm